5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we're live. Welcome to Amateur Opinions. Welcome back to the show. Brand new week, brand new episode. We've got a first-time guest on the show, the talented Dani Bagel.
Hello, is this when I talk?
Yeah. How you doing?
Good.
Yeah, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. This is very cool.
Very cool, yeah. This is actually a collaboration with Monolith Magazine. They reached out to me and they were like, yo, we interviewed Dani and we think she's cool, so we want to do a podcast format for it.
Cool.
So I was like, okay, why not? I'll bring her on and make it an episode of mine, but a collaboration with Monolith. So
it's nice to know what I'm doing here.
Yeah, I just had to make it clear. So that's what's happening. So off air, you were telling me, before I introduce you properly, you were telling me what the longest word in the anatomy is.
It's the longest name for the smallest muscle in the body. And now we've been drinking wine, so I'm gonna try and see if I get this right. So
okay.
It's Levator labiae superior. No. Levator labiae superioris aliquo nasi, which means the muscle that's on a little bit higher of the nostril labia, which is like your fold.
Yeah.
And it makes it do that flare thing.
Oh, that's what controls it. Yeah. So what is there? Is there like two of them?
There's two things, but
okay.
they're tiny, like your pinky nails. So
okay.
It's like 5 names.
How do you know that?
I did. I studied it, and it was one of the things that made like it just stuck in my head.
Yeah, because I mean, like that's a very long word. How do you like? Is there a strategy you use to actually remember?
It's a really
exactly
cool name, and then it's one of those things that you learn, and it's so ridiculous. I must never forget it.
Yeah,
you know.
What language is it? Or what language?
Latin. So it'll be like. So I did physio.
Oh,
and I think this was probably one of the things that I remembered in second year. And we had this really passionate lecturer at Grooteskeer, and he would tell you these like random facts. You know, and it's one of those, and I was maybe the target audience for that crazy professor that everyone remembers.
His target audience. Interesting. So you did physio.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Okay, so Dani is a singer. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So what kind of music do you sing? What kind of music do you sing?
In categories for public. Whatever they feel like listening to, which will be mostly pop. I can say, look, okay, so I did like a wine festival. So when I'm singing to drunk people, we got some Maroon 5 in there.
Okay,
Keep them.
okay.
But I mean, I think people most commercially know me as like a bit of a pop, goes to pop R&B, bit of dance. So I do a lot of collaborations and stuff. I like to work with people and just kind of venture into different genres. So by myself, the most music I would play is like, say like Snow Allegra. Like I've really been, and her and like Sabrina Claudio. I like girls with like weak voices because it doesn't make me feel so bad. I'm like, you can still have a career.
You have a chance, you have a shot.
Yeah. Not in like Selena Gomez way, but like Janae Aiko's made like a really good career out of not really singing with projection.
Like, it's just
I was like, I can do that.
Yeah. I actually didn't know Snow. I didn't even know. I just discovered her like last week actually. I was just on Apple Music. Oh yeah. Well, to be honest, I only downloaded that one song that popped up on the playlist, but I was like, it's really cool. So I downloaded it, but I actually didn't know her. Has she been around for long?
I would say like I've known of her a year or two.
Oh, okay.
But someone actually also, because it popped up on Colors, and that's how we listen to a lot of that at home, and or introduce like artists like that. And then someone actually DM'd it to me and said like, this girl reminds me so much of you and like her style, whatever. And I was like, okay. And then you're like, you don't know me. And you're like, actually, that was a really great album. Thank you.
Yeah, she's pretty good.
And I think the most popular song now, I Want You Around, came out as like a prequel or whatever, because it was like well known on like playlists and stuff if you listen to the more popular ones. And then one day I woke up in middle of October and then this gift was in my iTunes playlist. No, it's amazing.
Good. Yeah,
so like I like that. I mean, with her, it's kind of got this Brandy at her prime and Amy Winehouse, if she could perform as a sober woman in her 30s now. Like there's just like a sense of maturity that I find her music to have.
Yeah.
Where Amy Winehouse, when we got to experience her, and like one of the most influential artists, like for me in the jazz direction of vocals.
Right.
We didn't really get to, I think, experience the benefit of her art when she as a human was like her most whole. you know.
Yeah.
And I always like, I think when after she died, and like as I got older and reflecting on artists that you lose, it's like kind of how much more would we have been able to like appreciate the newness where you would have taken music, you know, if you were like the best version of Amy.
Yeah.
You know, because that whole like toxic paparazzi cat and mouse thing that they made, like the Paris Hilton era, like that's no longer the fad anymore.
Yeah,
so I think there's like a lot more respect towards artists and the fragility of the artists that we like bombard with our opinions and what you should be and what they should, you know, and it actually affects the person. So I find like it's interesting that like an artist now like Snow in 2019, who wasn't even, I think, anywhere near an age where you could appreciate an artist like that, is still able to draw on that.
Yeah.
And that's also like quite exciting for new artists, because like there's a lot of people with throwback sounds and you're like, what do you mean you're making this music? This wasn't around your time. And then like you meet a 19-year-old where like Skrillex is the Michael Jackson in my reference of my life, you know.
Skrillex?
Yeah. Like,
really?
yeah. And that's what my reaction is, like, are you sure though?
Yeah.
And then you kind of go, hold on, when you were born in 2001, it makes sense that someone like this like changed the way music existed for you. You know, it just took us in a direction that we're not going there. You know, it's and that's how like interesting how the influences and like how it starts shaping artists and artistry, and you know where people will want to go, and also like unconventional artists, like because there's so much space now.
Yeah, that's true.
You know,
that's true.
So,
and so Amy Winehouse, you'd say that's your biggest influence.
I think initially it was Alicia Keys, because that I was like, Brown girl plays piano and sings.
Oh, you play piano too?
Oh yeah. Oh, okay. So.
Okay, rewind.
My musical introduction, like formally, was classical piano. So my mom had a piano that I used to play around on, and then she taught me. I mean, I covered this already in the interview. If you just push some numbers on the pages. But yeah, I did classical music at school, did all my grades, and was primarily a pianist. I did choir and like orchestra, like very bit nerdy. But also like music was genuinely something that I just could go to if I didn't feel like going to class, and they'd be like, oh, she's a great pianist, she's got something very important to practice to. I mean, I was like bunking, but people leave me alone kind of thing. And so yeah, then when I got into varsity, had that to be my focus, because it costed a lot more than high school, so I couldn't like mess around. And so and also the chance, like I think I just shocked myself for getting into physio because I did standard grade maths. I don't know, how old are you?
I'm 27.
Did you do like higher grade, standard grade?
I'm from Zim, so we did just forms.
What does that mean?
Like we did form 1, form 2, form 3, form 4, form 5, form 6.
In subjects?
So we had O levels. So in O levels, what you do is you basically have about, some schools have 8 subjects. We had 12. Oh. Yeah, it was crazy. It's unnecessary. But yeah, we had 12 subjects and then you do them. So it's like, it's just a slight step below like matric. And then after O levels, you do A levels. Which is like
first year varsity level.
Yeah, okay. Almost. A little less.
Okay.
But yeah. But there you just choose 3 subjects. So like, for example, I did maths, physics, and chemistry. Then someone else would choose literature, geography, history, okay. Maths, accounting.
So I did math, science, bio, music, art. I did 8 subjects, which like arts is just a practical, right? Because then that was also just something I didn't feel like studying.
Yeah.
I just give me marks to be good at it.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
And then because when we applied, the mid school that I wanted to go to, it's like UCT and so many numbers and so many people getting in, and then like I just remember like completely throwing myself against the wall at like every chance that was gonna like put on a she cares about the environment accolade on her application, and then got in, and then I think I just like was so shocked that I'm like, you just have to abandon anything else and just like focus on music, which physio for the next while, and then like I never did anything musical. I mean, I was even out of my parents' house by then, and like the one day I was just like, I haven't played piano and I've been playing like the same, like they're really difficult pieces if you someone that understands classical music, but it's the same pieces that I've played since I was like 16, because I haven't done anything like formal in that direction. So the rest has been my ear, and because I was also very classically trained, the idea of like improv and play your feelings, I'm like, what does that mean? If it's not on the page, I don't know how to create it. And like what is interesting is like coming back as like an established adult, 28, 29, back into the music space. I was tinkering around on the piano, but like the only way I could connect with music again was singing, because I didn't have an instrument in my house. And then the friends that I was like, you know, hanging around with were also creating beats, and then I would just always find myself like adding to, maybe you should sing it like this, so this is maybe a harmony because like this is from choir, you know. And what is interesting is that like there was always this anxiety of like, am I qualified enough to offer my opinion to this space? And the more I've experienced like the best of the best of the best, and people that like are just like the bedroom producers or songwriters, is that like every single person has a tangent on themselves that they hope like no one finds about that you're really shit at. Imposter syndrome, not to the point that it's disabling, but you know, you're just like, are you sure they didn't make a mistake about you being there? And like the first time I encountered that was getting into med school, there were 55 people in the class, you know, 60 people in the class, and you only graduated with like 40, because it's like, it's quite tough.
Yeah.
And luckily I kind of got over that thing, because it's like, you're going to be you probably shouldn't have been there. Someone's going to be like, oh, it's the quota face. And I'm like, fair enough. But we also only get to the finish line. We're getting across the same finish line.
Yeah. I mean, it's like in my class, I graduated with like 19 people, and we started off probably around 50. So either other people like put an extra year on it, or some people just change the degree, some people get kicked out. So it was crazy, like, and then towards the end, when you're now like fourth year, and then everyone now it just becomes close, like, guys, we like made it. Like, it was basically a battle.
And what's crazy is that like I left it.
Oh, did you?
So I had a practice. So I did my ComServe, came back, and then I just my first interview, I'll never forget. I was just applying because I had this anxiety of like, because when you leave varsity, you go into a government position where you just like, as such a privileged idiot, you're like, I don't want to work for the government, and you're like, it's a job with benefits. Hello, like they pay you extra money because they put you out in Kimberley, like a bit further away as an inconvenience. You've got a pension plan from the time you're 20. I'm like, working for the government's not a bad thing. Yeah. And then I left that, and then I started working in the world of private and wanting to work for people. And then my first interview, this lady's like, you're great, but I'm not going to give you the job. And I was like, oh.
Why?
Because she's like, I feel for somebody like with a lot of potential that I see, you need to go and experience so many different versions of this before you settle for your first. So she's like, go and locum. And I was like, okay, lady, you're kind of weird. You know. And then I did that, and I locumed for like 6 or 7 months, like 6 days a week.
So what's locuming? Just
like being the stand-in. So your doctor's sick or on holiday, I'm the guy that is also like just in the medical profession, doesn't have the same connection to the patient, so that like in private practice you lose a little bit of that connection, and that's my doctor, like in the same way you talk about your hairdresser that just knows how to manage you, you know. And so then I did that, and then I think the one job I had, I left and I wanted to sue my ex-employer, and that's when I learned about labor law and basic conditions of employment. And
why did you want to sue them?
Because they were taking advantage of somebody that they thought just like wouldn't know to like go ask the questions. As to like, that feels kind of weird and funny in like, there's some rights. So like you would just be expected to go see patients on your time, and there's no such thing as overtime, because like when you work amongst public holidays, it'd be like, we're just going to split public holidays amongst each other, and then it's fair. And I'm like, no, but like there's money in my pocket though. You know. And it was something so stupid like putting in notice and then not coming back to work, being told not to come back. And that's when I learned about like being paid in lieu of, you know, if you're not being fired. And I was like, okay, these are some cool life foundational lessons you need to learn. And so then had my own practice because I got tired of making other people money. Okay. And they were never there. So I'm like, how hard can it be? Keep the lights on.
So you start your own practice.
Yeah,
your own physio
my own
practice.
Physio practice. Right. I was 20, the week I turned 25. Opened my own practice. Went to go advertise at a jiu-jitsu academy because I was like, what's got a high rate concentrated guys that inflict pain and injury amongst each other. Like MMA.
Right. Yeah, MMA.
I was like, this is a good long business plan.
Yeah, solid business.
And then like all I was just like this pretty girl that can give massages, and I'm like, I'm gonna ride that as well because it's still money in the bank. Thank you very much. I'm gonna be professional. And I've got dry needles if you get a little bit too like unnecessary. Exactly. So but anyway, no, like jokes aside, got my practice, saved up money. Because also I was like, I had a genuine conversation with myself, like, you have no kids, you've been going through a shitty breakup with somebody that's been like dragging you along for 2 years. And then I just had this moment where I was like, you need to like focus on something bigger than your like obsession with how much pain you have with this asshole that doesn't want you around still. And then so I opened and I literally just felt like I did like a, like the Care Bears energy. I just like directed it into like, back then I didn't know it was myself, but it was something that, like a project that would benefit myself. Obviously that was just like my intuition, like self-care and love is like all you need.
And you're 25 at this point.
I was 25. It didn't make sense to me, but I was like, I think it was just like the most primal like fight or flight survival that was just taking care of me, even though I didn't know what the if I was doing. And if I'm allowed to swear on this.
You can.
Okay.
We're an open platform. Well, not that.
Get
except for that. Except for that, it's the only word.
Dial it back. Okay, I was testing the waters. Okay.
Oh, you took it there.
I guess that's a no. Sorry, I'm blushing.
I was kidding. You can say whatever.
Can I take my jacket off?
Yeah, go ahead. I took mine off.
Woo. I'm blushing. Okay. I had to be that person.
Okay, so you start your practice at 25.
My practice, and I have like this love-hate relationship with it, where I think by my 4th year, I remember having this conversation. I think it was with my therapist, because I started seeing my therapist like in my 2nd year of running my business, and I was like, the only human beings I interact with is in a small room where there's this like unidirectional flow of energy, where they're talking about pain and what causes them pain and how's the pain is a bit, And I was like, I don't know if that's good for a person, because also I was in a space, I think just in my life, where I was like regrouping and now being a business person and a clinician and being a girl that's 25 and trying to be single or whatever. And then I think it took me about 2 years before I like recognized that I didn't want it anymore. Because I was like saying to my friend this time, I'm like, I feel like I prayed so hard to have a baby, and I went through IVF for years and years and years, and this kid turned out to be a dick. I'm like, but you wanted it. So I spent like a lot of time making a business work. I think even though skills wise I could have returned to it, but I think I just burnt myself out by trying so hard to make something that like wasn't fitting, just like structurally and what it was providing for me. And it was a difficult decision to actually actively step away from it. And it happened quickly, probably in about 3 months. And I find those types of things, like when it happens that quick, like sometimes it's the most natural path you should go with.
True.
Instead of questioning it.
And
then probably for like a whole year after, I still have patients texting me like, are you sure you're not coming back? And people will be like, that was your life calling. And I'm like, I understand that. But like, it's difficult to say like something that you love is like not good for you for the rest of your life. And that's like a very like, because like I decided I was being a physio when I was 10 years old.
Oh,
actually, like, 10
How did you even know what that was?
Oh, because our teacher's a scammer. I realize this now. My grade 1 teacher. We used to do story time. And listen to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and like Roald Dahl and stuff. And we would sit there. And then, it's like my news of the weekend, and each person tells my news. And then she goes, my shoulders are tight. Doesn't anybody want it? And it's like, me, ma'am. Brilliant.
That's brilliant.
Because you've got 30 willing, and they've got stamina. So then she's like, oh my goodness, you're so good. You should actually be a physiotherapist. I'm like, that sounds so fancy. I have to do it. And since then, like, done. So I think when I was a kid, it was just the concept of wanting to do something that sounded hard. And then I met somebody, a family friend that was a physio. And I remember her treating my mom's neck. And she would have these like magical points, and this person's like, it's so there's the pain gone. I was like, what? You can heal, and that was cool, because like I think I'd always just been a very fidgety, like curious child. So it's interesting that I'd managed to kind of mush that into like some type of clay to make something usable. It's like a weird interest.
I've got an issue with my neck. Do you mind just...
What's my rate on a Sunday afternoon? I used to just tell people they had cancer, because they'd ask me out like on a Friday night. They'd be like, what's this pain? I'm like, you're going to die in 6 months. Don't say that. I'm like, well, that's what you get for free.
Yes. That's my free opinion. That's funny. Okay. So you closed down so you're now like 27 when you closed it down? No, when you closed it down, yeah.
I was 20, yes, the week I turned, it's 27.
27, right? So you close it down, then what next? What happens after that?
Then I actually move into a very, very structured corporate multinational, like very corporate company. And every person that like within my space, and also like just to like discuss my business as my job, I know I'm responsible as a person outside of like the flash of being a singer. And that's because that's the thing that like sets the foreseeable future for like the family I'm going to have in 10 years, or the life I'm going to want to provide for my retirement. Because as much as you want to do that by yourself, you can, and everybody's very like excited for you to be a business owner, but the romance and the practical element of you can't go on maternity leave because people don't come to your locum. So you, even with paying yourself, you still have a lower income. Like, do you always have to marry somebody with it? It's like, it's not realistic for an independent, somebody that's just an actuary, or a doctor. I mean, doctors also struggling, shame.
Yeah,
but,
true.
I just found like nobody actually had that conversation. And so moved into something that provided that for me. And then I was like, you haven't created anything because you've been so focused. So I was like, let me go do something where I can take leave, and it gives me a lot of time to, like, when I'm sick, to actually still not worry about, do I not pitch up for work, or do I not be able to pay my rent, kind of thing. And I think for somebody that does and invests so much of a like focus in so many things in the world, it's nice for that to not be part of, because it takes up a huge space of what you can compute. So that's been the last 4 years is September.
So that means you're 31.
No, I'll be 33 on Thursday.
Oh, shit.
On Thursday.
Really?
The highlighter, yeah.
It's the highlighter. Thank God for highlighter, right?
Yeah, I'm turning 33 on Thursday.
Oh, nice. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Yeah, this episode comes out on Monday, so.
Okay, cool.
Not quite.
Still 32.
Yeah, you're still 32.
Okay, cool.
Happy birthday on Thursday.
Thank you.
Okay. So at your new job, is it like not anything to do with physio?
So it's still in medical.
Oh, okay.
So
still
we'll
medical.
leave there.
Okay,
so,
okay.
but I mean, it's nice because like I never took a complete step away from it. But it's interesting now that like not being somebody that is there with your hands on patients, it's interesting to see how what I appreciated most about my career as a physiotherapist was that I was a problem solver and a solutions maker. Like, I like making things, you know. So there I was just like, what is the problem with why your neck is like that? Let's fix it. And then how do we help you sustain a life that's going to not let you run because you couldn't and it was making you cramp? It's like this cool journey that you get to. So it's like all the cool parts of human interaction that I enjoy and I thrive off. So here, it's interesting where you put marketing strategies in place, which is very far left in the, corporate financial metrics kind of way. And I respond to that well, just like how my brain likes to understand things. Yeah. But then I'm also like forcing this very like creative, out the box, slightly uncomfortable space for them to like look at things of like, let's try this. I know it scares you a little, but we will be different. And I think that like the more I just fine tune and work at that little piece of clay, it'll just always make me a bankable anything. I can be a executive record label, or I could be somebody that works in government. It doesn't matter where the space of that like type of thinker is, because it's necessary in every facet. It doesn't matter. It's not bound to industry. And I think that's where I recognize like the transferable skills as a physiotherapist, where you have to learn like what I value the most and what served me, that's paid off, was the ability to like connect with people and learn to make you feel comfortable. Because I'm gonna imagine in a half an hour I'd answer the door, and then I'm like, hi, I'm Dani, I'm your physio, and then you're like, I thought Dani was a guy.
That was short for Daniel.
Exactly. And I'm like, no, it's me. And then you started, and then as you started, they're like, so how long ago did you graduate? No, I've been graduated for like 10 years already. I'm like, oh, I thought this was somebody. No, this is mine. And then you start seeing this, like, I love that like uncomfortableness, but at the same time, like, by still offering something that that person's soul needs to feel a little bit grounded. Like, I like providing that. So when it comes to like talking in our space where you get warned ahead of time, that's a difficult client, and I'm like, that's going to be my favorite. Because you're going to think you're going to hate me, and I'm going to leave you with something to think about.
It's like a challenge.
And I think it's kind of also my internal response of having to address the challenges that you cannot there will never be a point that man and equal and every spectrum of whatever we are on this earth that is like offered the same amount of rights and justices. So I think as long as you understand that thing will always be there. I mean, obviously the boundary is different on every person's experience, but it'll just mean that you will never be beaten by that system.
Yeah.
Like I'll never not be in the game. You know, you didn't make space for me. It was
like,
my time.
It's
like it's actually, it will be smaller than, and that's fucked up. Like it's not fair.
Yeah.
Life's not fair.
That's
the baseline. It's unfair for everybody.
Everyone. Just that other people just find ways to maneuver.
Yeah. It's problems and it's problem solving all day. Because like even in the conversations that I would have with patients where, why am I exercising? I've been so, I'm like, the bottom line is like, I can't connect with you. Somebody has to be the thinker amongst. There's always space for emotion and whatever, and being conscious and empathetic. But like, we both can't be like, it's so hard.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially if I know a way for us to get there. So I think it's having to tell this person, like, trust this complete stranger that looks a little crazy, that doesn't know when to breathe while she's talking, and just like trust that like together we can, because I think also through moving into a corporate space where the rules are so far away with how I would do things and the order in which I do it, I had to force my ego to like adapt and like become more EQ balanced instead of the IQ, which was clearly in my mind very established, because I was like, I can trust a lot of what I understand by the book. But it was the trust that I also had to kind of start like widening that part of being less self-reliant and being more integrative in human space. So it's again not about being a part of a corporate thing that has good benefits, but in the last 5 years, have I done my dream? Have I like lived out something? Not at all.
Not quite.
No. I'm very happy like with the type of company that I work with, and it's ethical, and like I do feel good about a lot of money that we make, for just as a business, because that's what your aim is. But I don't feel like I'm working for like the oil companies and that's like killing of baby turtles.
Yeah, poor turtles.
Yeah,
poor turtles.
Poor turtles. We're sitting drinking out of paper straws because of you assholes. I hope you're grateful.
Y'all better say thanks.
We're sitting here halfway through.
I'm dying out here. I got my first I was buying cake at just downstairs at Kokochachi, and then I was served.
Let me just say, the Dark Mrs. Transferable cake, right?
It's the best.
It's the best.
Literally the best.
I'm so glad that there's somebody else. I'm always telling people about this.
It's the best. Like it's actually bad that I live here because it's just down here.
And I was so excited because as we turned in, I'm like, we're so close to it. Maybe we can go.
Yeah. Exactly. And then I was serving out like wooden forks. For takeaway.
Yeah. Okay.
Instead of the plastic ones.
Talking about wooden stuff, like, isn't it the saddest thing? Let's just like dry all the Amazon. Weird question. When's your birthday?
1st of Jan.
Yeah. Okay, so you're Capricorn. That explains a lot.
What does it explain?
Oh, you Capricorn. So,
yeah.
Virgos and Capricorns are both earth signs, so that makes sense why it's...
Yeah, it's horrible.
Oh, so you're very good at your job. So, I mean, that's also part of the...
Yes. High five on that one. Okay, I'm going to have to wrap this episode up.
Okay.
This was very
much... I feel like we haven't gotten into anything substantial.
We haven't. We'll do this again for sure. How long do you think, out of curiosity, how long do you think this episode was at this moment?
Like 20 maybe.
28 minutes.
Okay, it's not bad.
Yeah, it's not bad. So, hey, this is Amateur Opinions, Dani Bagel. What's your Instagram?
The Instagram is at Dani Bagel, like the food. And then Twitter is Miss Dani Bagel. So you'd see pretty pictures of me taken by my boyfriend. Right. And then if you want to hear my thoughts like this in text, then that's where Twitter is. Right,
that's where Twitter comes in. All right, so Dani Bagel.
Yeah,
that's on Instagram.
DaniBagel.
And YouTube, do you have a channel?
Do I have? No, there's nothing on me. I don't. It's so much work.
I have?
This is I've got a team.
Yeah, okay.
Who does their own stuff anymore?
Right. I do, but hey. Oh, life sucks. But anyway, all right. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. These are Amateur Opinions. If you like it, take it or leave it. All right. Thank you. Have a good one. Peace.